Melissa and Vincent originally crossed paths when she brought her frozen laptop to the computer repair shop where he worked part-time as a student. Sympathizing with her distress over her term paper, Vincent lent her his personal laptop, prompting Melissa to agree to a date as a gesture of gratitude. After 7 years of marriage and shared life, their relationship began to undergo changes. Melissa became increasingly irritable, highlighting more and more of Dimitri's flaws, and their marital duties turned into a source of discomfort. Both recognized this as a crisis and tried to work on their relationship, hoping it was a passing phase. One evening, Melissa returned home from a gathering with friends, proposing to spice up their intimate life. Intrigued, Vincent asked for her preferences, and after some hesitation, she confessed to considering inviting someone else into their bedroom. Melissa even mentioned signing up on a website dedicated to such encounters. Vincent responded angrily, vehemently rejecting the idea. The thought alone disgusted him, as he believed a third person was unnecessary in their relationship. He couldn't comprehend how his loving wife could suggest such a thing, viewing it as a form of adultery, even with his consent. Vincent's outrage was so intense that he ignored Melissa the following day. Melissa offered a sincere apology that evening, admitting she hadn't anticipated how unpleasant the idea would be for him. Vincent curtly responded, stating that he saw no need for an apology since his reaction was completely logical. Even though he knew it was wrong, the idea of testing his wife's honesty started to consume his thoughts. He wondered how far she would be willing to go to fulfill her desires. After contemplating for several weeks, Vincent pondered whether there was a point of no return. Ultimately, he decided that it was better to take action and potentially regret it, rather than regret not doing anything at all. He began to put his plan into motion. Vincent informed Melissa that he had to leave for a business trip, although it was merely a fabricated excuse. He even took a vacation from work and temporarily moved out of their rented apartment for 2 weeks. Without hesitation, he approached his old acquaintance Petya, who was unfamiliar to his wife, and asked for his participation in the scheme. Petya, having recently experienced his own relationship troubles due to infidelity, agreed to help Vincent and offer support during this difficult endeavor. To kick things off, Vincent created a fake online profile with false information and a photo of his acquaintance. In the profile description, he mentioned his affinity for experimentation and expressed a willingness to engage with married women for fun. As Vincent carried out these actions, a mixture of anger and anxiety brewed within him. Deep down, he actually hoped that his plan would fail, praying that Melissa would prove to be an honest woman who would never betray him just because he denied involving a third party in their intimate affairs. For an entire week, Vincent began to manipulate his own wife through correspondence, impersonating the mysterious stranger from the online realm. Melissa didn't hold back and confided in him about her secret desires, revealing that she felt neglected by her husband and sought to fulfill her needs outside of their marriage. At times, Vincent was so repulsed by their conversations that he would turn off his phone in an attempt to distance himself from the hurtful words coming from his own wife. As the days passed, Vincent's curiosity grew. He wondered how far Melissa would go and if her conscience would allow her to continue this dangerous game. He started suggesting a face-to-face meeting to better acquaint themselves, but to his surprise, his wife immediately requested the very meeting he had orchestrated. The day had been set. Vincent and Peter had devised a plan, discussed all the details, and now they were eagerly waiting for the appointed day. Since Vincent's wife believed he was away on a business trip, he had the freedom to carry out his mission without any obstacles. He even began to see this as his purpose, to expose his unfaithful wife and potentially even confront her. He imagined the scene vividly in his mind, his wife entering the room blindfolded, and him removing the blindfold to reveal himself as her husband. He wanted her to fall to her knees, begging for forgiveness, while he decided whether or not to show her mercy. On the day they had agreed upon, the two men discussed their plan once more. Vincent stayed behind in the apartment, anxiously waiting for the couple to arrive, while Peter went to meet Melissa. Vincent paced back and forth in the apartment, feeling an overwhelming rush of adrenaline. He couldn't calm down. An hour later, he received a text from Peter informing him that they were on their way. Vincent scanned the apartment once again, searching for any evidence that might betray his presence. He had been living there for 2 weeks now, carefully concealing himself. He lurked in the room, trying to make as little noise as possible. After a while, he heard the front door open, followed by 2 voices, one male and one female. Melissa's voice carried a hint of flirtation, the same tone she used to speak to him before their intimate moments. Her voice was smooth, languid, and her words seemed almost ritualistic. Anger towards his wife consumed Vincent. He anxiously awaited a signal from Peter, and when he heard him shout, "Valis, come to the kitchen. We need to decide on a drink for the evening," Vincent knew that the moment had come. The door to the room swung open, and there stood his wife. She was wearing his favorite dress, which accentuated her figure beautifully, and a black mask covered her eyes. "Take it off," Peter ordered her. "There's a surprise waiting for you." Melissa removed the mask from her eyes, surveyed the room, and was horrified to see Vincent sitting on the bed. He glanced at her with contempt, wondering what was happening. She was clearly dazed and confused. Vincent, with a bitter grin, responded, "That's what I'd like to know from you." To his surprise, Melissa retaliated and began defending herself. "It's your fault," she shouted. "Because of you, I went for it. If you had just agreed right away, none of this would have happened." Melissa's cheeks flushed, whether from shame or anger, and she furrowed her eyebrows tightly, holding back tears. She refused to admit her mistake, convinced that her husband had pushed her into such an action. Vincent didn't engage with his wife. He settled the financial aspects, and they parted on a somber note. He forbade Melissa from going near their apartment, stating that he would deliver all her belongings to her parents. Melissa pleaded with him not to disclose the reason for their divorce to her parents. She knew they would be horrified by her actions, but Dima wanted to hurt her, and he did so cruelly. He held nothing back, recounting every detail to his father-in-law and mother-in-law. As expected, Melissa's parents reacted exactly as she had anticipated. Her mother stopped speaking to him, even though they had to share a living space for a considerable amount of time. The woman nostalgically recalled the years they had spent together with her husband, their shared hobbies, and often found herself in tears. She still loved her husband, but Vincent had left for another city, severing all ties that could connect them. Melissa attempted to locate him through mutual friends, but they claimed ignorance regarding Vincent's whereabouts or what had happened to him. It was disheartening when spouses fail to find common ground, and one stubbornly maintains their position despite their partner's protests. After all, marriage should always involve compromise. Melissa's fantasies were too audacious and contradicted her husband's principles, yet she was determined to fulfill them at any cost. However, she now had every opportunity to pursue these fantasies, even on a daily basis. That concludes the story. Please share your thoughts on this situation and the character's behavior in the comments. Thank you for listening until the end. Don't forget to subscribe to the Stories For You channel. All the best.